Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and you're not. Of course, except for any of you listening whose name might be Rob. So, hi. Now, I've been told by many people in the comments here while I've been trying to figure out my intro that if I leave out this next part, they won't be happy. So, I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, I have 4 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. Oh hey, before we get into it, do you guys remember when I used to bribe you with cookies to subscribe? Or should I say, my little buddy Carmen would bribe you with cookies to subscribe? I think we need to bring that back. So yeah, if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, or I'm gonna eat all the cookies, and you're not getting any. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from I Am Weasel93. Work smart, not hard. I got hired as a line cook when I got out of culinary school. It was a big hotel chain. I got hired for the day-to-day work and we had 8 other line cooks and a head chef who was always bragging about his workload and how he spared us from the paper monster. The head chef was, for a better word, absent from the kitchen floor and basically a pencil pusher. He did the ordering, the HACCP lists, stocking, timesheets, rosters, schedules, communication with HR, GM, F&B, and he made the menus. For the most part, the work paid okay, and there was not much hassle. Thing was, the menus we had to cook were outdated and very uninspiring. Like, think about the cookbooks from 70 years ago, uninspiring. At some point, we as a kitchen team were done with that, and we requested that we make the menus. Head chef, for some reason, was happy to oblige. So now comes the kicker. We had an after-hours menu with simple meals, BLT, pizza, salads, soup, fries, hamburgers. For some reason, corporate decided that the after-hours menu had to go and be replaced by the normal day-to-day menu. This led to the following situation. Almost nobody ordered food during the night shift. Turns out when people come to a hotel late, they are either too tired or too drunk to eat a meal that takes around 15 minutes to serve, or are in no mood for a sautéed salmon in white wine sauce. This went on for like a year, and corporate saw the nosedive in night shift revenue across the board, and they made the only logical decision to combat this problem. Fire all night shift line cooks or relocate them to other hotels if they could not be fired. Of course, the after-hours menu was not changed, nor was it removed. No, instead it meant the shift had to be picked up by another. So this is where the tale really started. So I worked there for about 2 years and I got in some trouble with the head chef. We didn't see eye to eye. This led to the following situation. I had to pick up almost every night shift. I would come in at 4 in the afternoon and leave around 5 in the morning. I worked 40 hours on paper, but in reality, I worked around 50-ish. I didn't mind as overtime was paid out, and me as a 21-year-old could do a lot with the paid out overtime. Thing was, it was so boring. In the beginning, I cleaned the kitchen, checked the walk-ins for spoiled goods, set up a part of the breakfast, and did some minor paperwork. After about 3 weeks, I ran out of work to do. Every 2 or 3 days, I could clean something or check the fridges, but what first took an hour now took like 10 to 15 minutes. So I did the logical thing and started reading books, watching Netflix, talked to the night manager, starting to experiment with new recipes, and hanging out with the interns. Basically, I was effing around on company time. So after a while, I got called into the office of the GM. I got a verbal reprimand for slacking. When I asked him why, he told me someone told him what I did during night shift. So I of course explained to him what I did and that in between these hours, I had little to do. This led to a discussion between corporate, GM, and my union about what I could and could not do within the position I was hired for, but that's a story for another time. At the end of this whole ordeal, I was tasked with kitchen paperwork, and Chef just unloaded his whole workload on me, telling me to get to work and that the time for slacking was over. He said this all smug, and apparently he was assuming I would not finish this, or I would come begging for help. I had to do the timesheets, order produce, and answer emails. Chef was always bragging about the work and that it took a whole week. After one look, I knew he was not familiar with computers and the various programs he had to work with. Within a month, I had figured out that our time management system could be linked to our payroll system, and I only had to check if the breaks were logged correctly, hit the sync button, and place a request for validation by the GM and HR. Same went for our ordering software. I could upload a produce list and order from an iPad while walking around to the different walk-ins and freezers. Also, I combined this with the 2-day spoil check. Within 2 months or so, I found out that the work schedule sheet could be copied to another week, and with another software link, I could sync our HR app so it would automatically generate a warning when someone was on leave or vacation. It took me 2 night shifts to do all of the above, and the other 3 I could slack. Due to this, Chef had nothing to do in the office and in turn was slacking. He had nothing to do during the day but to sit around in his office. After about 2 months, somebody slipped this info to the GM. After that, Chef had to work in the kitchen and his 9 to 5 changed. He had to do breakfast shift as he failed to do line cook work. He was stuck 30 years back when sticking everything in jelly was a trend. Soon after this, corporate got wind of this great innovation and asked our chef to document this all and send this over to them. When I left the company due to other reasons, corporate were contemplating cutting the head chef's position and making the F&B manager responsible for the kitchen. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Hesh582. It says, "That sounds like a terribly managed hierarchy all around. A head chef who never steps foot in the kitchen, but just does paperwork, that should have been either the F&B manager or a low-level employee. Seemingly nobody in between the head chef and the GM. A large corporate setting, but a kitchen wholly run down to the menus by the whims of a single head chef. This is what corporate food service used to look like, and it sure doesn't anymore. At any competent organization, the position of F&B manager has grown significantly in importance, pretty much precisely to prevent this sort of crap from happening." Opie responded and said, "It was a mess there and all around the company. We had an FOH manager and an F&B manager, but the F&B manager was also responsible for 4 other hotels in the area that had no F&B manager. This was also during a time the corporate layer decided to cut costs wherever. This is one of the reasons I left the company." It really sounds like the head chef had been there for a very long time and was stuck in the old ways of doing things, had no up-training on how any of the digital stuff works these days, and, well, just wasn't worth keeping around. I always find it interesting when we get a story about somebody who's just not willing to embrace technology as it is today, because it makes life so much easier. That head chef could have been slacking a long time ago, but because they didn't want to learn, they weren't able to. This story comes to us from Nervous Mess 7, Distracting Censorship. Where I work, many of my coworkers have visible tattoos, and it's never been an issue. Even some of the assistant managers and higher-ups have tattoos that can be seen while in uniform. For some context, during the summer months, we are allowed to wear shorts if we want to do so. I get very warm during the summer and just don't handle the heat well, so I opt to wear shorts almost every day from May to August. I have a tattoo of a mermaid on the side of my lower leg. It's a typical American traditional mermaid and she has breasts. The middle of them is a black dot, simple and small. It's not overly adult or drawn in an adult style. Plus, it's on the side of my lower leg, mixed in with many other tattoos so it doesn't stick out. For a few weeks, I had no issue with the tattoo. I even had one manager comment on my leg pieces, saying he liked the style. However, one day, one of the assistant managers came up to me and told me my tattoo was all of a sudden inappropriate and out of line for work. She demanded I wear pants or completely cover the chest of the mermaid tattoo every day. I asked her if a customer had complained or if our manager had said something. She said no, that only she took offense by the tattoo and she demanded I cover it. I asked a bunch of people and they thought she was being ridiculous, but this particular manager had a history of steamrolling over everyone and getting her way. Even other assistant managers had issues with her in the past. So I decided, fine, I have to cover those dots on the mermaid. That's what I should do then. I went to several craft stores to find as many seashells and sea-themed stickers as I could find. I also bought some small gemstone stickers and thread. I used the gemstone and thread to make tiny tassels for the mermaid. They were super cute and drew lots of attention. I had coworkers and customers all commenting on how cute the tassels were, and how creative it was to do that as a cover. The assistant manager that had forced me to cover the tattoo saw what I had done, and she wasn't pleased. She had thought I would use band-aids or something to cover up the tattoo instead. But I got her to admit that I was technically following her demand, as the mermaid dots were no longer visible. The longer I had to keep the tattoo covered, the more creative I got with it. I used all sorts of fun, flashy stickers and designs. I even used googly eyes at one point. All my coworkers loved it, as they agreed it was unnecessary to demand me to cover the tattoo in the first place. Eventually, that assistant manager was fired, and when she left, I stopped covering the mermaid. I haven't had any issues with any other managers about it, so I think the issue is resolved, and at least I had some fun while it lasted. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Imguran. It says, "Hope you often had opportunities to shake a leg to make it more entertaining. Although this whole thing is great as is. OP, it's not your fault that your assistant manager wasn't keeping herself abreast of the times. I don't know, it seems to me like she was being pretty melodramatic. The tassels and the googly eyes must have hit her right in the jugular. And it makes me wonder if the first time she saw them, she was like a deer in the headlights. I wonder if the whole situation could have changed if you just offered her some support. Overall, OP, I think you did a wonderful job. It's clear to me that you racked up a win." This story comes to us from Creomaga. "You want it done so badly, you write it then." In high school, we had student teachers shadowing the English department. They acted as assistants to the teacher while getting whatever experience they needed for their degrees. My English teacher liked to assign topics she thought would interest us as a way to focus more on the writing than the topic. She rarely commented on the subject matter, but would tear the essay itself into pieces and give specific detailed feedback to build the writing skill. Some of us went all out on these assignments. Most of the class gave a collective eye roll and handed in something that met the word count. Then there was Roy. Roy did not like homework at all in any class. He felt it was a personal insult that he had to be at school anyway, and the idea of taking schoolwork home was downright offensive. This was compounded by his firm conviction that English was an unnecessary subject. He skated by in most of his other classes because making him do the work wasn't worth the hassle. Once it became clear that Roy wasn't going to do anything in this class either, English teacher takes it as a teaching opportunity for the student teacher, and the three of them sit down together. An agreement is made that the student teacher and Roy will work on his homework during detention time, as an alternative to actual detention for not handing homework in. Student teacher does most of the assignments, Roy hands them in, praise all around. This goes on for several months. Student teacher eventually realizes she is getting duped and starts insisting Roy do his own work. Big assignment that is to be presented to all 3-year level English classes is handed out right before a break, so we've got plenty of time to work on it. Break ends, first week back we are given the schedule of when we're presenting to the class. Roy is scheduled for the end of the week. Student teacher offers to help him fine-tune his presentation skills and finds out, to no one's surprise but hers, that he's done absolutely nothing. She flips her lid and tells him he has to do something. It's worth a huge percentage of the end grade. Roy tells her to write it herself and goes off to smoke at the bike sheds. So she does. At the end of the week, Roy takes his place to present his assignment, cocky in the belief that he'll ace it because all the other work he did got excellent marks. His topic was superhero fiction, and the presentation was being marked on a number of things, including visual aids, presentation skills, and vocabulary. He starts off strong and is using a lot of big words and complicated language. Student teacher had even spelled things out phonetically in the notes for him. English teacher's eyes are getting wider and wider, and then we get to the visual aids. The superheroes in question were the Powerpuff Girls. We got a detailed version of the origin story and details about various powers and abilities, and a great deal of speculation on what their activities would be once they had grown up. This included multiple visual aids, which were not quite homemade adult material, but not your wholesome superhero drawings either. I should note here that this was late 90s, so the images were not sourced with a quick Google the way they are now. So student teacher went to some effort for this. We were all very impressed at his level of interest in these particular heroes and made sure to tell him so regularly for the rest of high school. And no, he didn't pass English. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Mountain Butterfly 38. It says, "That student teacher is the GOAT. Hopefully they didn't get in trouble. They will make a great teacher." Another commenter down below called Paijur said, "Roy mastered the lesson. Manipulate others to do your work, so you can just skate through life without accountability or consequences." Oh, come on, I don't see what the problem is here. It sounds like Roy's just gonna have a perfect opportunity for a lifelong career as a politician. This story comes to us from Annual Antics. Delete the Legacy Knowledge Department? Okay. A former employee has decided to shoot themselves in the foot with a bazooka. I thought I'd share it here so you can laugh at them too. In a nutshell, the business built its own in-house software which is designed to cover all aspects of the business, from invoicing, tracking stock, creating reports, semi-automating direct debit billing, and virtually everything else, 1,000 sub-areas. As such, the business ended up with 3 IT departments. One was more hardware issues and basic IT issues. There was the medium IT department who could fix small issues within specific sub-areas of the software, and the legacy team who worked on the rawest base level of the software and had kept it functioning for over 20 years. In an effort to cut costs, the senior management decided that the legacy team were no longer required, as they were creating a whole new software anyway and would be ditching the old one within a year or so. In doing so, they also insisted that the large office they occupied was completely emptied. This included several huge filing cabinets of paperwork, comprising dozens of core manuals and countless hundreds of up-to-date how-to-fix documentation pieces, as well as earlier superseded documents they could refer back to. The legacy team sent an email to the seniors basically saying, "Are you sure?" To which they, eventually, received a terse email back specifically stating to destroy all paperwork. They were also told to delete all digital files to free up a rather substantial amount of space on the shared drive, and wipe their computers back to factory settings. So it was all shredded, the files erased totally, and the computers wiped. The team removed every trace of their existence as ordered, and left for greener pastures. It's been 3 months, and there was recently a power outage which has broken something in the rebooted system. The company can no longer add items into stock, which means invoicing won't work, as the system reads as "can't sell what we don't have." In turn, this means there's no invoices for the system to bill. So it's back to pen, paper, and shared Excel sheets to keep track of stock, manually typing invoices into a template, and having to manually check every payment received against paper invoices. All of which is resulting in massive amounts of overtime required to keep up with demand. The company has reached out to the legacy team, but they've all said without the manuals they were ordered to destroy and erase, they're not sure how to fix it. Our new system is still at least a year out. On the positive side, 2 of the senior managers have nice large offices to share and sit in. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Cirelli Furbo. It says, "When someone asks, 'Are you sure?' you better think really hard before going on with your idea. Things are not going to go the way you think they are going." Another commenter down below called Coco Almonds Rock says, "Oh, they're just being inconvenienced right now. Wait until taxes are due, and vendors want their tax paperwork." Opie responded and said, "True enough that. I don't envy any of the lower leveled staff right now." Okay, anybody who knows even the slightest bit about IT knows that legacy knowledge is your main asset as an IT team. How can you really build something new to do everything that the old system did without that legacy knowledge? It just doesn't make sense. You're really shooting yourself in the foot if you want to get rid of that, which is exactly what they found out in this story. Alright, if you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and give us a rating on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.